name is Kaylie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay everybody, hello, welcome. I know this video is a day late, but at least we're here, okay? At least we're here. But without further ado, let's get into today's story time. I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. Okay, obviously my skin is not looking its best. I think I found out the reason though. I'm not gonna tell you guys what I think the reason is until next week. So that way, like, hopefully I am right about the reason. But hopefully we see me next week with clear, beautiful skin, because that would just be perfect. Okay, story time. My babysitter fell in love with me. Grab your popcorn, folks, and take a seat, and welcome to the fucking circus. Okay, okay. I almost forgot the intro. What am I doing? Okay, so for any of you who might be new here, I'm going to do my quick usual little rundown for most of the video. I'll be looking in this direction because my mirror's over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. I do tell these story times at a first person point of view, so if you don't like that, you can leave.
There's the door.
And these story times are sent in by anonymous people. Now let's get into the story time. Okay, story time. My babysitter fell in love with me. We are going to start at the beginning because y'all need to understand the whole story, okay? Okay. So we're going to rewind back to 2008, whenever my mom and dad first started dating. Now, when they first started dating, my mom was 13 and my dad was 16 years old. And from what they both told me, they were, quote, deeply in love with each other. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how you know what deeply in love is at 13 years old. But, you know, to each their own. I can tell y'all, I was deeply in love with Barbie dolls at 13 years old. Anyways, so fast forward to 2009. My mom is 14, my dad is 17. About to turn 18, and they were both active, if you guys know what I mean. And if you don't, well. And I guess that they had had a few pregnancy scares in the past, but they still decided not to use protection. I mean, I'm not complaining because shit, like, I want to be here if they did. So, you know, it's a win for me. And now a word from our sponsor. Hi! I'm the fragrance fairy. Actually, I'm your fragrance fairy. Okay, but how did you get into my house? That's not important. Do you remember last week whenever you ordered that perfume for $350 and then you wore it on a date with that guy and he told you that he didn't want to go on another date with you because you smelled like his grandma's funeral? I mean, I wanted to forget about that, but sure, I guess. That was bad. But that's why I'm here now. So that way we aren't spending $350 on perfumes that smell like someone's funeral. Get it together. I actually have some stuff for you. Ta-da! What are those? These are from Scentbird. Now I have a few different ones. I actually have 4. Some of my personal favorites, actually. We have Sweet Like Candy from Ariana Grande. Ow, what the heck? Why did you do that? You'll be fine. And then we have Moonlight by Ariana Grande. Ow. That one actually kind of smelled good. I know, right? And wow, look at how much is in there. All right, what is Scentbird? I am glad you asked. So Scentbird is a perfume subscription service, which personally I love. Are you gonna ask why? Oh yeah, sorry, I think I'm losing my vision. Why do you love Scentbird? I love Scentbird because every month you can pick out a fragrance from brands like Gucci, Prada, Versace, and many more for only $17. Which personally, I think is very convenient because you don't have to go and spend $350 on a perfume that you don't know if you're gonna like. Instead, you can spend $17, try a perfume, and then decide if you wanna commit to buying it. Which personally, I like to switch it up, so I'm never buying a full size of perfume. Wow, that's actually pretty convenient. I also have a little surprise for them. So can you leave? I would have to climb over my desk. Yeah, that's fine, just climb over the desk. Hurry up, can I just I have places to be. You know what? Do what you want. For a stranger in my home, you are very bossy. Thanks, bye. Okay, now that she is gone, I want to give a shout out to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. Okay, if you guys scan this QR code and use code Kaylie55, you can get your first fragrance from Scentbird for just a little over $8. Exciting, I know. Once again, just a little over $8, Kaylie55. And thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. Yeah, you can have your chair back now. Bye guys. Anyway, so you know, they were, I guess, taking pregnancy tests like every other freaking week. And so, you know, they buy the pregnancy test, my mom takes it, she's expecting it to come back negative. Bam, she finds out she's pregnant with me, the light of her life.
Let's fucking go, I guess.
Not really. Now, obviously, like I told you guys earlier, my mom's only 14 years old. So obviously, nobody was going to be happy about her being pregnant. Like, literally no one. So just as every other expecting teenage parent does, they come up with a plan to hide the pregnancy from everyone. And honestly, they didn't think that it was gonna be that hard because my mom is a super tiny girl. And as long as she wore baggy clothes, then they were gonna be completely fine. It's honestly crazy. She showed me pictures back from whenever she was pregnant, and sis didn't even look pregnant. Like, it looked like she worked out every day. She barely even looked a little bit bloated. But then again, she was only 14 years old. Your body is still developing, so yeah. Anyways, so like I said, they came up with this plan, and honestly, it did seem like a foolproof plan because whenever my dad turned 18, he was supposed to get some money from his grandparents. And when I tell you, my dad's family had money, well, not his family, his grandparents had money, they had money, literally. Like, my dad was the youngest sibling, and all of his older brothers and his cousins, whenever they turned 18, they all got $100,000, and their grandparents' only rule was, oh, you have to put 80,000 of it towards college or like a business idea, whatever the fuck. And then the other 20,000 was for you to do whatever you wanted with.
It'll be nice.
So yeah, their plan was hide the pregnancy until my dad turned 18. He would get the money. They would move into an apartment. Well, my dad would move into the apartment first, and then he would tell his parents about my mom being pregnant, and then my mom would tell her parents, and she already knew that they were going to kick her out after she told them because they just don't put up with that shit at all. So she figured she would be like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm pregnant. I know you're about to kick me out, so I'm gonna go live with my boyfriend now. Peace. And then she would go live happily ever after with my dad. Now, even though this seems like a foolproof plan, they first had to make it 4 months without anything destroying this plan that they had, okay? And I guess the 3 months, and I guess the first 3 months went by super easy, you know, it was a total breeze. But then the 3rd month is whenever everything just went to shit because of my mom's older sister, Caroline, who was 17 at the time and who also loved making my mom's life a living hell. Mainly because she felt like my mom was the favorite. Like, from some of the stories that I heard, it really seemed like Caroline hated my mom, wanted her dead type shit. Like, for example, the one time Caroline had gotten grounded because she snuck her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friends into the house. And oh, it gets worse, it gets worse. When they got into the house, they woke everyone up, my mom, their parents, held them at gunpoint and robbed them.
What was the reason? What was the reason? What was the reason?
Robbed them, literally. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I was lying if I said that I didn't feel bad for Caroline because, like, 2 days after that, she found out that her boyfriend had actually planned the whole thing. Y'all, the trust issues I would have after that would be foul. Oh, hell no.
I know I be doing some fucked up things. What I do? But you did a fucked up thing.
So anyways, yeah, Caroline got grounded after this. And around this same time, my mom and dad had just started dating. And my dad had just got a new car because he finally got his driver's license. So my mom and dad were always out doing something. Well, I guess the one night before my mom and dad were gonna go to this party, they were over at my mom's house just kind of hanging out, and then Caroline came into my mom's room and she was like, hey, can you guys drive me to my boyfriend's house? And yes, this is the boyfriend that literally held everyone at gunpoint and robbed them.
Dumbass bitch.
Like, way to make smart choices, Caroline. Like, really, bro? So obviously my mom told her,
fuck no.
And then Caroline got super upset with my mom, and after that, my mom and dad left to go to this party that they were supposed to go to. And then Caroline decides to call the police and tell them, oh yeah, my sister, she just got kidnapped by this older guy. He's like 21 years old. He is obsessed with her. She's only 13, which my dad was literally 16 years old at the time. Anyway, so then she ends up giving the police my dad's license plate number. So fast forward probably like 20 minutes after the highway, and all of a sudden there are 4 police cars with their lights on behind. So my dad pulls over, and then police start walking up to the car with their guns out, telling him to put his hands outside the car, turn the car off, blah, 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 blah. And they were held at gunpoint. That was probably my mom's second time being held at gunpoint within like the past month. It was just a shit show. And rightfully so, my dad's parents were super pissed off at Caroline because the police were actually really rough with my dad. Like, they ripped him out the car. They ended up actually breaking his nose from just like slamming him on the ground. And yeah, I guess Caroline didn't end up getting in trouble because parents said that she had mental issues, and yeah, like, okay, I guess. So anyways, yeah, you get it. Caroline pretty much hated my mom. Now, Caroline never actually found out that my mom was pregnant. It wasn't anything like, oh, she found out she was pregnant and then she blackmailed my mom and then told my mom's parents. No, it was literally nothing like that. It was actually a complete plot twist, okay? So the one day, my grandma is cleaning the bathroom and she finds a pregnancy test wrapper in the bathroom. Now, obviously my mom and dad having a foolproof plan on how not to get caught, they weren't dumb enough to leave that shit in there. So then my grandma walks out and she's like, excuse me, whose fucking pregnancy test wrapper is this? And then all of a sudden, Caroline and my mom are blaming each other, you know, they're like, oh, it's hers, it's hers, it's hers, vice versa, you know, whatever, whatever, whatever. So my grandma's like, all right, fuck it. Nobody wants to tell the truth? Both of you are getting pregnancy tested. Fast forward, my grandma's sitting there, you know, they're waiting for the things to come back. Both of them came back positive. My mom said that it looked like my grandma was about to have a fucking stroke. Y'all, I couldn't even imagine both of my teenagers like finding out they're both pregnant at the same time. Like, that would be some fucking shit. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so then my grandma says to them, either y'all abort them.
Yeah, double homicide.
Or get the fuck out of my house. Point blank, period. I finally learned how it goes, the book. And then my mom told them flat out, listen, I'm keeping it. Fuck, like, nothing y'all say or do will change my mind. Now, Caroline, being Mrs. Jealous and just completely not there mentally, she saw this as the opportunity to become their parents' favorite, like my grandparents' favorite. So, you know, she decides to kiss their ass and be like, I want to keep it, but if you guys don't want me to, then I won't, because I never want to disappoint you guys, and I don't want to put you guys through anything, blah, 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 da, da, da. Like, all right, girl, like, wrap it up. Like, she brought out the crocodile tears and everything. So, you know, fast forward a few days later, my grandma asks my mom again if she's going to keep me or abort me. And my mom said, again, fuck off, I'm keeping her. So then my grandparents went to my dad's house, right? Oh yeah. They went to my dad's house and they were like talking to my dad's parents, and I don't think it went exactly how they thought it was gonna go, because my dad's parents were like, I can't believe you're letting your daughter have sex at this age, blah, 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 blah. And then they went off on my dad and they were like, you look like a fucking I can't believe that you're having you know what with an underage girl. They were like, could you imagine what people are gonna think about this, blah, blah, blah. And then they pretty much said, okay, well, either she aborts it and you guys never see each other again, or you leave her, because if you don't, you will not be a part of this family anymore. We'll tell your grandparents, you won't get your money, and I will make sure that nobody helps you or her with this child. And so after that, like, also another thing is that my dad had like 6 older siblings, right? He had 6 older brothers, and they were all like grown, you know, they all had their big boy jobs and they had families and they had their own houses and stuff like that. But even though they had big boy jobs and they made good money, whatever my grandparents, my dad's parents said went, or else they would be cut off. So if my dad's parents said, don't let your brother stay at your house or we're cutting you off, they were like, all right, yeah, like, we're not gonna, like, fuck you, bro, like, sorry, on your own, huh. bye. Even though it literally wasn't even my dad's parents who had the money, it was his grandparents. But yeah, you guys get the point. So they were like, yeah, you're not gonna get any of your money, you're not gonna be able to stay anywhere, like you're going to be literally on your own, you're gonna be fucked. And my dad's parents said this all in front of my mom.
Emotional, damn it.
Anyways, so my grandparents, aka my mom and dad's parents, let them spend the day together so that way they could figure out what they were gonna do and make a decision. And they still had the same mindset, or so my mom thought, because my dad dropped her off later that night, making my mom think that, you know, they were just gonna work stuff out and they were gonna do this together, you know, fuck it, like Romeo and Juliet type shit, they're gonna figure it out. But then for the next week, she could not get a hold of my dad for shit. Like, she tried calling him off of other people's phones, you know, she went to his house, she wrote him letters, nothing. And then finally, whenever she had went to his house again, his parents finally opened the door and they were like, oh yeah, he moved to Colorado. And so obviously my mom is heartbroken, crushed to say the least, like the father of her child just left, you know. And also I think another thing is like, I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but when you're dating an older guy, if it's not very toxic, you sort of feel protected by that person, you know. So she just felt completely betrayed, she felt left alone, and just like, you know, she made all this commotion about how she was keeping the kid and how her and my dad were gonna figure it out, and then all of a sudden bam, he just like leaves whenever it gets hard. And I mean, like, I get it, you know, because you're a kid, you don't know what the fuck to do. But yeah, and then she still decided to keep me, and my parents gave her a week to get out of their house, find a place where she was gonna go. So my mom ended up bouncing around to a few different places throughout her pregnancy, and I couldn't even imagine the stress that she was under. Like, that's absolutely awful. I could not imagine that at all. But then fast forward, finally she pops me out, and I guess that my mom's parents were keeping my dad updated on what was going on with me because my mom wasn't speaking to her parents. So like I said, my mom pops me out, and then after that my dad starts sending her money because my mom's parents were like, hey, you know, she just had the baby, da da da. And then my grandparents found out through one of my mom's friend's parents. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, he started sending my mom money, and my mom tried writing the address that was on like the envelopes that he would send the money in, but he would never respond. Now we are going to fast forward 3 years because this is whenever I feel like the story really starts, you know? So it's 2012. My mom dropped out of school shortly after moving out of my grandparents' house so that way she could focus on working to get her own apartment and to try and take care of me. So this was actually working like 2 jobs. You know, hearing stories like this makes me appreciate the things my parents did for me whenever I was younger. Because like, was it the best growing up? Definitely not. But considering my parents were literal teenagers whenever they had me, I couldn't even imagine the stress of having a kid that young. And I'm just gonna give a quick little refresher. It's 2012, I'm 3 years old, my mom is 17, my dad 20. Well, eventually my mom's best friend Ashley asked my mom if her younger brother Noah could stay with my mom and I. Noah wasn't really the best kid, but yeah, he just wasn't the best kid. So he was getting kicked out of his house 24/7. And whenever he would get kicked out of his house, he would usually go stay with his sister Ashley. But Ashley lived with her boyfriend who was super abusive, mentally and physically. So Ashley did not like whenever Noah would go and stay with them. So she asked my mom, hey, Noah just got kicked out of the house, can he stay with you guys for a few days? And so my mom is like, yeah, but he's not going to live here rent-free eating all my fucking food and shit like that, so he's gonna need to take care of my daughter, aka me. So yeah, he would come and stay with us for like 4 days at a time, and eventually he like wanted to just move in with us because he just didn't want to go back home. So then he started doing stuff on purpose to get kicked out of his house to come to our house. And Noah was 15 at the time. So yeah, like I said, you know, he moves in with us, and then after he moves in with us, he starts taking care of me like 24/7. literally 24/7. Like, I'm talking, this kid was taking me to doctor's appointments. He was cooking me breakfast in the morning. He would take me to daycare, pick me up from daycare, which was like insane because this kid's 15, right? And my daycare was a 3-mile walk away from our house. So he would get up early in the morning, put me in my stroller, walk me 3 miles to daycare, and then walk 3 miles back home. And then like 7 hours later, I would need to be picked up again. So then he would leave my house probably like 6 hours after dropping me off, come pick me up. So this kid was like walking 9 miles, or no, that's 12 miles. 12 miles a day, 4 days a week. Just really responsible for his age, to be honest. Anyway, so now we're gonna fast forward 3 more years. It's 2015. I'm 6 years old. Noah, he's 18. My mom, she's 20. And during this time, my dad, he was, I want to say 23. He just finished college. He got a big boy job and he finally started making way more money. So he started sending more money to my mom and I. And after this happened, she quit her job. And you would think that her quitting her job meant that she would be able to spend more time with me and that, you know, Noah could just go back to being a kid. But no, that's not what happened at all. What actually happened was she started going out and partying more because whenever she did work, she would go to work, blah, 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 throughout the week. And then the nights that she didn't have work, she would just go and party and drink, you know, do drugs, all that good shit, I guess. And she wouldn't come home until like 5 or 6 in the morning. And then it just started getting worse because then there would be nights where not only would she stay out all night, but she would also come home in the morning and start fights with Noah. Yeah, the person who's taking care of her kids. Anyways, so yeah, like I said, she would come home, start arguments with Noah for no reason. And you could definitely tell that she was on something more than alcohol. So my mom was a super happy drunk, actually. But yeah, like I said, the one time she came home and she's like telling Noah that I'm her kid and he needs to stop acting like my parent. And the one fight got so bad, my mom literally like pulled out a kitchen knife on Noah. Like, she held it up to his throat and she was like saying that she was going to unalive him because he was trying to take me away from her. And she was also saying that she knew Noah and she knew what kind of person he was. She knew that he was trying to get her to go to jail, that Noah was working with my dad to try and put her in jail and take me away from her. Some psychotic shit, like seriously. It was just some crazy ass shit, okay? Because of this, Noah started trying to get me out of the house more. And Noah usually wouldn't hang out with his friends. If anything, he would just invite his friends over the house to kind of hang out. But now he started bringing me over to his friend's house. Like, I was literally going to high school parties at like the age of 6. Like, for real. Kind of crazy. And on the nights whenever my mom would come home on her bullshit, he would literally sneak me out of the house through the back window, and then whenever she would get home, we just weren't there. And I know you guys are probably gonna be like, oh, well, why didn't your mom just call the cops and say that you were kidnapped? Because my mom was on drugs, and that's, yeah, she was just on drugs, bro. Like, she didn't want to talk to no police, like the fuck. Anyway, so yeah, like most of the memories that I have from whenever I was younger were literally just memories of going everywhere with Noah, going to high school parties with Noah, going fishing with him and his friends, going and riding dirt bikes. Like, she was actually pretty fun. Like, I had a lit childhood along with the trauma. And I remember Noah having one girlfriend, and I would go and I would hang out with them, obviously, because Noah never left me by myself. And because I would hang out with them, they would never get any alone time with each other. And she was always getting super pissed off, which, I mean, I get it. She would be like, oh, like, why can't we just pay to put her in daycare? Or she would even offer for her parents to watch me while they hung out. And every time he would be like, no, I don't trust her around anybody else, blah, 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 blah. Or I don't trust anybody else around her. I think, honestly, the reason why Noah was so protective of me when I was younger was Not only because like he grew close to me, but also because his home life whenever he was younger just wasn't good at all. Like the reason why his older sister Ashley had moved out with her abusive boyfriend, who she didn't know was abusive at the time, but she moved out whenever she was super young with him, was because both of her parents were alcoholics. They had gambling addictions, you know, they were just really, it was a toxic household. So like sometimes they would just come home and beat their kids. Shit's fucked up. But I guess the reason why Noah would always get kicked out of his house was so that way he could leave and he wouldn't have to deal with them. Like he would purposely get kicked out and nobody really cared where he went or stayed. Ashley was always just like, come here, because obviously that's her little brother and she cared about him. Get what I mean? Anyways, yeah, you guys get it. He was super overprotective of me. Fast forward to 2018, I just turned 9, Noah's 21, my mom is 23. During this time, my mom was fully submerged into her addiction. Since she didn't have to go to work, she would just fucking spend all day doing drugs, and any of the money that my dad sent to us would go to right in her dealer's pocket. And Noah's parents passed away whenever he was 19, so I don't really know how life insurance policies work, but I know he got some money from that. But yeah, so he decided to go to college, get a job, and during this time I was in elementary school, so he would pretty much plan his whole work schedule around me. Not even just work, like his classes and everything. Like he would make sure that he was able to get me on the bus to go to school and pick me up every day, and he would still try to spend as much time with me as possible. Like sometimes after he would pick me up from school, we would go to the library so he could study. I would do my homework, color, you know, whatever shit. But then my whole life completely changed. My mom and her plug were low-key in a relationship, and he was super big into selling. Well, obviously you guys know, I just said that's her plug. Anyways, so the one day his apartment got raided. If you don't know what raided means, it pretty much just means like law enforcement comes into your home and they search your house for literally anything. Drugs, weapons, people, like whatever. And it's not like they ask, hey, can we come in? No, they're like, we're going in. Like break down the fucking door type shit. So anyways, the police arrest my mom, they arrest her man. And my mom ended up snitching on him because if she didn't, she would have got 2 years. So since she snitched, she only got 6 months. Obviously, my mom's parents, aka my grandparents, found out about this, and they just decided at that point that I was gonna go and live with them. Even though I literally had no idea who they were. Like I had never met them in my life. Because like I said earlier, my mom pretty much said, since they didn't want to be in my life back then, they didn't need to be in my life now, or while I was growing up. So I remember the day that my grandparents came and picked me up from the house. They were like, thank you for watching her, Noah, but we can take care of her now. You shouldn't have to worry about someone else's kid. Go live your life. And it was like such an emotional moment, y'all. Like I was heartbroken, and so was Noah. Because like I said, he was like my older brother. Like he was always there whenever my mom was on her bullshit. Like at this point, I had spent most of my life knowing him as like my caretaker, you know? It just sucked. But yeah, I went to live with my grandparents, and I didn't see or hear from Noah for a while. But honestly, for once in my life, shit actually felt normal. I could finally invite my friends over to my house to hang out without having to worry about my mom coming home on some drug shit. Almost every night we would sit down at the kitchen table, have dinner, talk about our days. So yeah, I felt like a normal kid. Fast forward 2 years to 2020. My mom moved to another state to go to some treatment program, and my grandparents had just bought me my first phone because I literally begged them every day for like 2 months straight because we had just got put in lockdown, and I didn't have any way to speak to my friends, so I was very lonely. Like my grandparents weren't doing it for me. So anyways, like I said, they decided to buy me my first phone. And around that same time, Noah stopped at my grandparents' house to drop me off my birthday present. And when I saw him, I told him all about how, you know, they finally bought me my first phone for my birthday. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, like, here's my number if you ever want to talk. Like, I've missed you. And I was like, fuck yeah, you know, like, this is my older brother. Like, what? Fast forward to 2023. I still live with my grandparents, and Noah and I talk almost literally every day. And I was super excited because I had finally just gotten my first boyfriend. But of course, at this age, having a boyfriend just came with a ton of drama. For example, some of my friends told me that my boyfriend was hitting them up and, you know, that he wanted them and not me. Not really good friends if you ask me. not gonna lie. I'm telling you guys right now, okay, if your best friend is sitting there telling you, oh yeah, the guy that you like is hitting me up, blah, 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 or like your boyfriend, like, text me, blah, 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 blah. No, 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 no. And they keep bringing it up and like they're talking to them. I know guys can have friends, okay? I know it's normal for your friends to be friends with your boyfriend, but no, if they keep bringing it up, like say, you know, I have a boyfriend.
It's not funny, Ed.
Or I really like this guy and I'm talking to him and my best friend's like, oh yeah, you know, like Jonathan texted me last night. And they just say that. Or like whenever you bring up like, oh yeah, like, you know, I was FaceTiming with my boyfriend Jonathan, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh yeah, Jonathan and I FaceTime too. It's like, girl, this is not a competition. This is my man. Get your fucking own. Like the fuck? No, just no. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, all these rumors are going around and I'm telling Noah about them, like I'm venting to him, and Noah is super blunt, but like he always used to put stuff to me in a nice way. He'd be like, obviously he doesn't like you. If he liked you, he wouldn't be talking to your friends. You know, I think you should break up with him, blah, blah, blah. He's just gonna cheat on you. And because of this, I started becoming super distant from Noah, because it's like, listen bro, like that's not what I want to hear. Like I want to vent and I want you to be there for me, but don't be a dick. Like what? So fast forward, the one night I'm sitting in my room and all of a sudden I get a text message from a random number and it's a picture of my boyfriend at the park with my best friend kissing her. I literally didn't even care who sent it to me. I was obviously more upset about the fact that my best friend and boyfriend were making out with each other at the park literally 2 minutes down the street from my house. So I call Noah the next day, I tell him what happened and that he was right, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I'm so sorry that happened, you know. He was like, and I'm sorry that I, you know, was super mean about it. He was like, but I just don't want to see you get hurt. You're a beautiful, independent, smart woman and you don't need any of these little boys, da 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 da, you know, screwing up your confidence and this, that, and that, the next. So, you know, that kind of sucked. And then fast forward a little bit later, I end up getting a boyfriend who's 2 years older than me. Like I said, I'm 14, so my new boyfriend is 16 years old. And he would come pick me up all the time from my grandparents' house. And my grandparents actually put me on birth control because they were like, we're not having another situation. They were like, fuck no. So they took me to get on birth control right away. And then, yeah, so he was 16, he had a car, he would come and pick me up. We would go and just hang out, you know. And the one night I told Noah, yeah, no, like my boyfriend and I were going on a date and we're gonna call my boyfriend Jake. I'm like, oh yeah, Jake and I were about to go on a date. And then he's like, oh cool, like where are you guys going? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're just going to the movies. You know, I didn't think anything about it. And we did go to the movies. And then after the movies, Jake and I, we went on a drive and, you know, we just kind of talked and hung out. And then we had stopped at this like parking lot near this park. And we were just like talking and then we started making out. And then before I know it, Jake gets ripped out of the car and I see Noah beating the life out of him. Literally. I'm in shock. I look like I just seen a fucking ghost because I haven't seen Noah in so long. I'm like, what the fuck? And then Noah looks at me and he's like, you better get in my car before I tell your grandparents what you're doing. So I hurry up, grab my purse, walk my ass over to his car, get in the car, shut the door, and I'm just sitting there looking at, you know, Jake and Noah. And I hear Noah say to Jake, if you ever go near her again, I will unalive you. I'm just like super weirded out about this situation. Like, I'm just like, okay, bro, like I get you're protective over me, but like what the F? Really? So then when we're in the car and he's driving me home, I'm like, Noah, how did you know what movies I was at and how did you know where I was after the movies? And he was like, I followed you guys. And I'm like, why would you do that? You weirdo. And he was like, because I just had a feeling that that guy was bad news. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, well, I was right about the other guy. So I just, you know, I knew I was gonna be right about this one. He would have broke your heart, da 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 da. And I'm just like, bro, that's not your job. Like, what? So then he drops me back off at my grandparents and obviously I'm extremely pissed off about him. So I ignore his texts and calls for the next few days. No, not actually next few days, the next 3 weeks. And during those 3 weeks, my boyfriend was like terrified to even text or call me. Like he was telling me that he swears that Noah's been following him around. Like the one night, you know, my boyfriend was driving home from basketball practice and he saw Noah's same car driving behind him all the way until he got to his street. And then the one night while he was at work, he was there on a shift alone. He worked at Subway and he saw Noah sitting in a restaurant at the table across the street just staring at my boyfriend through the window. Some creepy shit, bro. So this caused my man to break up with me. Yeah. Fast forward a little bit after this happens, my dad comes to my grandparents' house, aka my mom's parents' house. Obviously at first I didn't know this was my dad. I just thought this was just some fucking random guy. So I'm just like, you know, hey, walk upstairs, go do my own thing. So my grandparents come upstairs and they're like, honey, that's your dad down there. He wants to talk to you. And at this point, I'm not gonna lie, after the whole thing happened with Noah, I'm a little bit skeptical of older guys. Like, they're just kind of, I'm like, So I went downstairs and I'm like, hey, and then he's like, hi, like, you know, if it's okay with you, I would love to take you out to lunch. That way we could talk, you know? And I'm like, all right, sure. And that's whenever he like explained like the whole story of like why he left my mom. I guess he had visited his grandparents like a month or two ago, and when he saw them, he told them about me. And apparently my dad's grandparents were super upset that he didn't just go to them in the first place. They were like, first of all, we give your parents all their fucking money. They were like, so whenever they told you that you wouldn't get any of that money, you should have came straight to us. And they were actually so upset at my dad's parents because like they felt like my dad's grandparents felt like they missed out on so much of my life that they literally cut my dad's parents off. Like straight just cut the funding.
Oh my God! Derek, stop doing it.
Like, y'all can live on your fucking own. You're not getting shit from us because you kept our grandchild away from us. And then my dad was telling me, yeah, like I really did want to be in your life, but you know, like I wanted to go to college, I wanted to get a job. And then, you know, whenever I finally got my job and I started sending your mom more money, I told her that I wanted to be in your life, but she had told me that she gave you up for adoption. The whole situation was kind of just fucked up because I guess that the reason why my dad found out that I wasn't adopted or I didn't get put up for adoption was like he lost contact with my mom's parents a little while into like probably like 2 years into my life. Try to keep up, y'all. I don't know if y'all are keeping up, but try to keep up, right? So my mom's parents, we were all at the grocery store and we ran into my dad's parents there. And my mom's parents were like, yeah, this is her, you know, this is their kid. And then my dad's parents ended up telling one of my dad's brothers about it. And then my dad's brother told my dad about me. So that's how he found out that I was like still in the picture, you know? And then he's like, yeah, and I want you to come and like, if you're okay with it, move in with me and your great grandparents. I really want to get to know you. Like I've been trying to be in your life. And the reason why I only reached out now, even though I talked to my grandparents like a month or two ago, was because I didn't know how to come back into your life. And yeah, so blah, 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 blah. Fast forward. I take a month to think about it, and then I finally decide that I was gonna go and live with my dad and my great grandparents. So whenever I moved in there, it was like December of 2023, and my dad didn't really know how to raise me at this time, okay? So he would kind of just let me do whatever I wanted. So I started hanging out with Noah a lot. And at this time, I'm about to turn 15, and I think Noah is about like 27, 28 maybe. But yeah, I started hanging out with him. And when we would hang out, we would usually just go over to his house, watch movies, or go out to eat or stuff like that, you know, nothing too crazy. I did find it a little bit weird how he didn't have any girlfriends or anything like that. I mean, any girlfriends that he did have, like the relationships didn't even last over a month. And I actually ended up finding out that it was because half of them didn't like the relationship that he had with me. Yeah. So fast forward, the one night my dad sits me down and he's like, we need to have a talk. And I'm like, okay, Mr. Parent, okay.
You're not my dad. You also hear something. Ugly ass fucking.
And he's like, listen, I know that Noah was there for you whenever you were growing up, but I don't like how much time you guys are spending together. He's a grown man. There's no reason why a 27 or 28-year-old man should be hanging out with a 15 or 14-year-old girl 5 days out of the week. He was like, he should have a life outside of a teenage girl. Like, what? And I didn't see it like that, so I told my dad. I was like, you weren't there and he was. So you can't say shit because you don't know what I went through. Which, I mean, it hurt my dad's feelings, but it was true. Like, bro, like, you weren't there. So then my dad was like, all right, yeah, you're right. You're right. So, like, Anyways, the one night Noah's driving me home. We had just went bowling and he's like, I'm really happy that we're spending more time together. I've really missed you. And I'm like, yeah, I miss you too. You know, like I love you. And he's like, I love you too. And I'm like, yeah, like da-da-da. And then we start talking. Then he's like, no, like I love you. Seriously. And I'm like, okay. He's like I'm in love with you. And that just, oh my God. I was like, oh shit.
Rewind. Take that off.
What did I do? I became very uncomfortable, obviously. So then when he dropped me off, I kind of ignored his texts and calls for the next few days because I was just super confused and annoyed because he kind of just like made our relationship like awkward. Like what? And that was on a Monday night. Fast forward to Friday. My dad storms into my bedroom while I'm getting ready for school and he's like, look what I just found in the fucking mailbox. And then he throws the letter at me and it's a letter from Noah to me and it's already opened. And he was like, we need to have a talk right now. You are not to see Noah anymore. He was like, I don't care if he was there when I wasn't. He was like, he's a fucking and he was like, go ahead, read the letter. Before I could read the letter, he interrupts me reading the letter and he's like, he's damn near 30 years old telling a 14-year-old that he's in love with you and that he can't see himself without you. And I was like, why would you read this? It's none of your business. And he was like, it is my fucking business, I'm your dad, blah, 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 blah. It was a whole argument, y'all. So then my dad goes, no, this is bullshit. I'm calling the police right now. And I'm like, Dad, he's a good person. Please don't call the police. Just let me take care of it. And he was like, no, I gave you a chance to take care of it whenever I talked to you before. You didn't take care of it. Give me your phone. So then my dad takes my phone and he's texting Noah to meet him at the park. I guess he was acting like me. And then Noah responds right away and my dad just leaves with my phone. So I'm freaking out. I'm bawling my eyes out and I didn't know if I had real feelings for Noah at the time. I didn't know if it was just the fact that my dad didn't want me being around him or what it was. I was literally like heartbroken, okay? Fast forward a few hours later, I took a sad nap. Those naps are the best. You know, the ones where you just cry yourself to sleep and then you wake up hours later and you're like, what year is it? Yeah, it was one of those. So my dad like storms in my room. He's like, it's taken care of. You're never seeing him again. So I'm bawling my eyes out. I grab my phone out of my dad's hand. I run outside. I'm like calling Noah. I'm like, Noah, like, please pick up, da 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 da. I'm leaving him a bunch of messages, whatever. And then finally he calls me and I'm like, can you come pick me up? So he clearly didn't give a fuck about what my dad said because he literally just came, picked me up. We went to his house and my dad beat the shit out of him. Like, this man had like black eyes and shit like that. And then like, whenever he was telling me what happened, he was like, yeah, your dad like tried paying me to stay away from you. And I'm like, so did you take the money? He's like, no. He's like, why would I ever do that? He was like, I told you, I love you. Bruh. So I stayed the night at his house and then I went home in the morning and my dad grounded me, took away my phone, but I didn't care because I was still gonna find a way to see Noah. Like, I really didn't give two shits. Fast forward to now, I'm still grounded. Noah actually ended up buying me my own phone so that way I could talk to him. And him and I hang out on the weekends. I tell my dad that I'm going to my friend's house. Obviously I'm not. And Noah and I are actually dating now, but my dad is thinking of moving us to a different state so that way I can be away from Noah because he still has like a feeling that Noah and I are speaking to each other, which we are, obviously. And I want to give another shout out to Semper for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to scan this QR code and use code Kaylie55 for 55% off your first fragrance. Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, maybe hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to know whenever I post my next video, make sure to click that bell. And if you guys want to send in your anonymous story time or you want to know how to send in your anonymous story time, make sure to click the links down below in the description. Other than that, I will see you guys next week with a new story time.